What is up everyone? Welcome to part 2 of my office setup video. This is probably going to be the most exciting part, and it could be the final part. I have no idea how long this series is going to stretch out, but I just know this is going to be a good one. I've got a really good feeling. So as you guys can see in your frame right now, quite a few things have changed since part 1. But of course, if you've been catching up with my other videos, you will have seen quite a few of these changes in vlogs and in the networking video and things like that. But it's very difficult to film these videos, film multiple series at once without creating any spoilers. So I am really sorry for that, guys, but bear with me. It's all getting there slowly but surely, and hopefully you guys are really enjoying the content. So without further ado, I'm going to begin by describing the differences that you see in the room since I filmed part 1. These are just things that I added recently over the space of sort of a week and a half, just ordering things here and there and picking up things here and there as I saw them, in order to build up the room into my office, of course. Now, one thing that's missing is my main setup and basically all of my equipment, but that I think is to come in this video. So let's just take 5-10 minutes to go over everything that I've added really quickly. Now, of course, you guys can see a big difference with the main setup here. Firstly, I have this giant mouse mat. If you guys are interested in any of these products, then I hope to do an office tour video once this series is complete, and I'm going to try and actually, for a change, put all of the products and links to the products in the video description. I'm going to try and do a proper video. But yeah, this is a giant mouse mat that I wanted for a few different reasons. Firstly, the white is extremely overpowering and everything was white, so I wanted to use black to break it up. So, you know, black stands, black mouse mat, and I'm also going to have a black mat on this desk, which is going to be more of a sort of working mat. I don't know if I'm going to get another one of these. It's quite nice feeling, so I may get another one of those for that desk, but it may not be quite big enough. But anyway, I've never used a mouse mat on my main setup before, and I'm quite looking forward to it because I want to keep the finish on this desk really nice. And as you guys know, I do tend to do unboxings on my main setup desk and that, so I wouldn't want to scratch things and whatnot. So yeah, the mouse mat is there. I think it looks really cool, and it'll obviously hold my keyboard and mouse. One other cool thing is I've got a white keyboard, as you guys know, so there's going to be contrast between the desk and the keyboard because of the mouse mat. So yeah, this is a giant mouse mat that was like a tenner on Amazon or something. Really sweet product. Next up, that is a really obvious addition, these speaker stands. These are your bare basic studio monitor stands. Now, I used to have a pair of these, as you guys know, but I sold those when I built my studio desk, when my dad and I built my studio desk that obviously support the speakers. But with this setup, I needed speaker stands once again, so I decided to go for these ones. And these are actually a little bit better because the plate at the top is bigger. This is more suited to my large 8-inch monitors, and they've got a little bit of foam here to stop them slipping around, so that's really good. It's no isolation foam, but it's nice to have it, so that's good. I've got 2 of those. I think they're jam stands. I think that's the make, but they're all pretty much the same. As you guys can see, on each stand, I've got a 5-meter IEC lead. That's to go from the audio power conditioner. That's going to be conditioning the power for the audio setup, as I've described, you know, quite in depth in previous videos. So yeah, IEC lead there and there to power both speakers off of that power conditioner, which is not here yet. Next to the stands, we have these 2 lamps. These are actually Argos value lamps. You get 2 for, I think, £11. And yeah, they're great. You can't go wrong. The switches are back here, and obviously they're going to be blocked by the speakers, which is nice because they're kind of ugly, and it'll hide the cables as well, which is great. But they are equipped with LED bulbs, so I can control these, including proper white, which is nice. So these are actually really nice quality LED lamps, and it's showing up pretty decently on camera as well, so I'm pleased about that. I do have an LED lamp in this one as well, and it will run off the same remote, which is nice, but I don't have it plugged in. I don't have power run to that side of the desk yet. That'll be something to come very soon. So I'm pleased with those. It just breaks up the setup and it adds to the symmetry as well. And of course, light. Light is a really important thing. As you guys know, I currently have LED strips on the back of my monitors, but that's not going to be much use here because it's going to be a window at the back. I may use them, I may not, I'm not too sure. So other things, these are all for my monitors, this set of cabling here. This is probably the most interesting thing that you guys are looking at. This is an IEC distribution board. It's nothing complicated, it's just a bare basic 1 IEC input to 4 IEC outputs. Now, you've got to be careful when using this sort of thing because obviously you then only have 1 fuse for everything that you're plugging in. So that's something that you need to take into account. But when using something like this for LED monitors, which consume next to no power, it's absolutely ideal because, as you guys know, a UK plug is big and bulky and is capable of providing some of the beefiest power on the planet for your everyday household socket. 240 volt at 13 amps, that's roughly 3,120 watts as long as your circuit can support it, depending on what else you're running on the same ring main. But with the advancements in technology and the fact that these LED monitors and all sorts of products now are so power efficient, it's almost a waste of a socket to plug some of this stuff into its own dedicated 13 amp socket. So things like this come in really handy. So I can power all 3 of my Dell monitors, which consume next to no power, off of 1 UK plug. And that's nowhere near exceeding the amount of power that you can pull from the wall. So I'm really looking forward to that. That'll sit underneath the desk, and of course, because they're IEC outputs, I've simply got IEC link cables, male to female, to plug in 3 monitors to this, and I've got a spare output as well. So that's my power solution for my monitors, all 3 of them nicely cable managed and running off of 1 wall socket. Next up, I've treated myself to a new DVI cable. I wasn't sure on the existing lengths of my cables, and this monitor over here is going to be fairly far away from my system, so I've ordered a long-ish DVI cable just to keep me covered. And I'm not too sure what I'm doing with my existing setup. Like, I'm not sure what cables I'm using to run things. It's very confusing because over the years I've changed and swapped things out, so I just wanted to have myself covered. I would have been really annoyed if I could only run 2 monitors after setting all of this up, so I've ordered the DVI cable just in case. And then the last thing for the main setup is this little shelving unit. Now, I bought this and unboxed it in my moving vlog number 3, I believe. This was a very cheap shelf off of Amazon, but it is going to be ideal to hold my PowerHack G4, my main system, on the top, and then of course other things on the bottom, accessories and bits and bobs and God knows what. So yeah, that means that the Mac will be held up at a nice level that's just above the desk, giving me nice access to it, but also it's not intruding too much. And of course, one thing that I really like about this shelf is the fact that it's, totally, air is not a problem. As you guys know, the only intake on that system is on the bottom, so I want as much air to get into that system as possible. So this shelf is going to be ideal. And of course as well, it's really handy to tie cables to because it's like a wireframe. So yeah, tying cables is really easy. And I think that's going to look pretty damn sweet. That's as far back as it goes against the speaker stand, but that's cool because I wanted it sticking out slightly anyway. So that is that main setup. Everything is now pretty much ready for the system to be put in place, and the speakers, the audio setup, the computer setup, everything is ready to go. So all I need to do is dismantle my setup in the old place and bring it down here, and that'll be its own video that you've probably seen by now, hopefully. So yeah, that's the main setup. Next up, I'll briefly go over some of this stuff. This is the 3rd tier for that shelving unit that's meant to go on top of there. I don't want to use it, it's way too tall, plus it doesn't fit because of the overhang of the desk. That is the height I want it, so I now have a bonus 3rd tier, which is great. I am going to use it on this setup somehow because it'll be a handy layer for my tools and things like that, and my little drawers that I have. So I'll be able to hopefully have my toolbox on top and then those drawers underneath along with some of my parts trays and things like that. I just think that'll be really handy, and it looks kind of industrial and cool. It looks very out of place now, just sat there, but once it's covered in stuff and probably orientated the other way, it'll look really good. That monitor's just sitting up there for no apparent reason. Over here, this is my temporary setup that I've been using for quite a while now. It's Jess's old TV, my MacBook Pro, and just I've got my super drive here because I've been making DVDs for people. I've had some projects on the go, as well as my editing drive and an external hard drive for backups. Just totally janky, kind of rubbishy setup, but it's getting the job done. And yeah, it's doing its little bit. It could be a lot worse. I'm just looking forward to having the main setup back. One thing that has changed since part 1 is the drawers. The drawers are back underneath because, as you guys can see, I now have a server rack. You guys will see much more about this in the networking video, but just a quick glimpse. This is my new crazy awesome server rack. And yeah, it doesn't fit under the desk, but I'm pretty glad because I think it deserves its own dedicated spot. As you can see, I haven't moved any of the equipment into it yet. But one really cool kind of lucky thing is it's the exact same depth as the existing desk, so it fits in really well. And if anyone cares, on top of there is primarily going to be my printer, but I may put this shelf over the top of the printer if it's tall enough and if it's wide enough. Then I can put my toolbox on top of that, and it'll sort of make more sense maybe, but I'm not too sure about that yet. On top of here, I've just got 4 short IEC patch cables to obviously patch the UPS output power into devices that have an IEC input, so an internal power supply, such as my switch, my rack mount RAID, and a few other things like that. So that's just to get power rock and rolling. All the other power will be sorted in the rack by this IEC to 6-way 13 amp rack mount PDU, which is a nice piece of kit. But yeah, I'm not meant to be talking about networking stuff in this video. That is IMNC as it stands now. First 10 minutes of this video is me showing you what I've been doing over the past little while. One thing that I will mention is one of these sets of drawers may float away to somewhere else because, as you can see, it pretty much consumes my workspace for that side. Or it may go there. I'm not 100% sure yet, guys. Or it may go this side, but then I think it would be too close to this setup. So I'm not too sure what I'm going to be doing there, but I will think of something. It's definitely not going to stay like that though, because it does, like I say, consume a lot of my leg space for the sitting at that particular setup. If you guys remember, I want 2 setups, one there, one there. So one can be used for, you know, repairs and stuff. You know, I've been through all of that. But anyway, this is an incredibly long introduction, I guess you could call it, but it's sort of more like a catch-up segment. From now on in, everything is going to be changing, and we're going to be introducing equipment to this room and building this up into IMNC HQ Mark II. And yeah, this is going to be an incredibly exciting process. One more thing that I want to do before I end this clip is address maybe a couple of the questions from part 1, and also mention something that I forgot to mention a minute ago. One of the big questions that everyone was asking was actually about this radiator. First of all, folks, I'm kind of shocked to see that a lot of people thought this was an electric heater or something like that. This is just your average household radiator, and this is how they look in the UK. This is part of the central heating system. It's just a radiator. As you can see, it's got pipes coming up through the floor, and that's all it is. Nothing complicated going on there. But just like any radiator, there is a dial there. You can choose how hot you want it, or you can choose if you want it on or off. So at the moment, I have this radiator off, and it's bound to stay like that, or I may have it on a little bit. I don't know. But it's no big deal. I appreciate the concern that everyone, wanted to point out that there was a heater there. But of course, I'm standing in the room, I can see that there's one there. And I've had a radiator behind my main setup since I've had a computer setup in IMNC HQ Mark I. So it's no big deal. And that radiator's been on full blast. So yeah, there it is, folks. It's a radiator, and it's not gonna impact me anyway. I'll probably push the desk back when I have all the cables laid out and everything. But yeah, it's nice for people to look out for me, just in case I maybe didn't notice the radiator. Next up, I'm just going to mention this. This is probably the best addition to the room since I have moved in. This is the blind. This room is ridiculously bright. It's a cloudy day today, but even on a cloudy day, this room gets so bright. So my dad put up this blind. I went to Argos, bought it, 17 quid. Dad put it up, and my God, has it made one hell of a difference. It is so nice to work in here with some controlled light, and it's just a standard horizontal Venetian blind, as you guys can see. Nothing crazy. I did want a vertical blind initially, but I just decided to go with what I knew and got a horizontal one, and it's really nice. It looks cool. It's silver in case you can't tell because of the weird lighting, and yeah, that is that job done. So that is truly everything updated now. I think anything I've forgotten I'll mention later on in the video, so stick around folks. This is going to be a truly exciting one, and I'm sure that I'm going to begin bursting with excitement throughout filming this video. Sorry if you can hear A, annoying reverb. It will decrease the more stuff we get in here, and B, a low frequency hum. I'm not sure if you can hear that, but it is the PSU, the UPS. And yeah, long story short, that's going to be replaced, but I'll talk more about that in the networking video, which you may or may not have seen by now. Who knows? Time travel, really confusing. But here we have it. Let's get stuck in. So I wanted to make progress today, but I didn't have time to make a video tearing down my old setup. I hope to do that Thursday. It's Tuesday today. So I thought to myself, what can I get done today that doesn't involve tearing down my old setup? And I thought, well, it's pretty obvious. I can get the audio components sorted that aren't part of my current setup, because one of my most requested videos is tearing down IMNC HQ Mark I and doing one final video there. So I didn't want to disrupt any of that. So what I've done is decided to bring down some of the stuff from the studio that is now going to be integrated into this setup. Now that includes 2 XLR cables, one for each of the speakers of course. They are cordial cables in red. They're pretty long as well, they should reach just fine. And I also brought down my power conditioner, which is going to be used for the audio setup. This is the rack mount 13 amp tail to 8 IEC outputs with, what do we have here? There's a voltage readout on the front, which is cool. You can keep an eye on what's coming out the wall. There's also 2 lights with an on-off switch for the lights, and also a dimmer dial, which is always handy. So it's a very nice little unit. And also with me, I have cleaning supplies. Why do I have cleaning supplies? I've just got some spray and I got some kitchen roll. Well, I'm going to pan over and show you guys exactly what I've brought down. And I wanted to do this so I could see how well the new stands worked out. There they are, folks. My MkII, I think the model number is HR8 Mark IIs. I think they've got the Mark IIIs out now. But yeah, these are the Mark IIs. So not the originals, but not the latest. But total beast speakers. So let's clean these up and stick them on and see what they look like. So of course, in the previous setup, I was using these on their sides. I was originally using them the right way up, and then of course we built that desk, and the design of that desk was to use the speakers on their side. So the majority of the dust buildup is on one side of each speaker, this side of this one and the other side of the other one. So I'm just going to give it a nice wipe over because I've never dusted them, and every surface needs a bit of a wipe, as you guys can see. Pretty nasty, but you know, that's what you get when you don't dust things. So I just want them to be all spruce and clean and nice before going on to the main setup. Now, with these speakers, they're barely used, if I'm honest, folks. In comparison to what I'd use my speakers for on my main setup, so the creative system, I'd be surprised if these speakers have done multiple 100 hours. I would really be surprised, because I've only really used them for specific projects and anything in the studio. So it would be really nice to get accustomed to these speakers once again and what they sound like, because it's very important. Like for instance, my creative speakers, they're by no means reference monitors or anything, they're just computer speakers, but I'm so accustomed to listening to them that I'm just used to what they sound like, so I can get nice sounding audio out of the system using those speakers. But hopefully, once I get used to these once again, they will allow me to hear so much more, which is exactly the goal. So I'm not doing the cones themselves at the moment. I'll see what they look like once they're on the stands. But that is that looking a lot better. I'll give the next speaker a fresh bit of kitchen roll, And for some reason, this one isn't so bad. So before I put these on the setup, let's take a little closer look at them, just in case you guys didn't see my unboxing years and years ago. And yeah, just so you guys know exactly what kind of stuff I'm using, really. You know, this is quite a bit different to your average pair of computer speakers. So let's take a little look. These are the MR8 Mark IIs. I may have called them the HR8 Mark IIs in the previous clip. Basically, when I was buying these, MkII had the HR and the MR series. They had a 5-inch and an 8-inch in both of those series, I think. The HR are higher end, the MR are the lower end ones, but still pretty damn high end. I think I paid £800 for these two monitors and the MkII Blackbird 16x16 Firewire interface and a pair of KRK K&S 8400 headphones. So I believe these must have been about £250 a pop, something like that, because the interface was about £300 and the headphones were free in that bundle. I bought that from DV 24/7. That was basically the heart of my studio and the biggest expense I've ever spent on anything like that. You know, £800 bundle, pretty crazy, or 700 or however much it was. But yeah, these are now being repurposed, and of course it'll be like a studio / office hybrid setup. I'll have the monitors, I'll have the interface, so it'll be fully possible to mix and things like that in here, and obviously record, but it's not my primary goal. I'll be using these for better audio when mixing YouTube videos, because of course YouTube is the primary goal of this room, and basically money making in general, but YouTube is a big part of that for me now. Anyway, let's take a look at these speakers. I'm really getting off topic here. So we have our standard RCA input for unbalanced. Yuck. We have a TRS input or an XLR input for balanced audio. We'll be using XLR, as you guys know. In this middle section here, we have all of the settings. So you can either boost or cut the high frequencies by 2 dB or the low frequencies by 2 or 4 dB, and of course control the input level there as well. Basically, obviously leaving the input straight up is 0 dB, and then I just leave all these on normal. I would never fiddle with these sorts of settings on the back of a speaker. You know, 2 dB is quite a lot, but of course they're on there because a lot of people like that sweeped sound, but for me, I want them as flat as possible. If you had severe room problems, or if you were integrating another set of studio monitors or speakers into your setup to act as sort of near field high frequency monitors or something like that, then I can understand the want to maybe cut back on or add some frequencies for these monitors. But for me, I would much rather do something like a software EQ or something, or get an external EQ if you wanted to level out the room properly. And of course, proper treatment is the first thing to do anyway, before EQing. And yet this room is going to be far from flat, as you can hear in my voice right now. But this is the first step, you know, setting up the speakers. I can't do everything in one day, and money also doesn't permit everything in one day. Proper acoustic treatment is not the cheapest thing on the planet, especially for a room bigger than anything that's tiny. So I'm hoping to get some acoustic pads and some isolation pads for the speakers to sit on, but I'll get all of that in one bundle, and that'll come in the next, I don't know, next few weeks, hopefully, as the money rolls in. But yeah, rambling aside, let's stick one of these speakers on the stand and see what it looks like. Now, when I first put the stands up, I guessed that this height would be good. This is the first notch, other than it's sitting flat on its base. And of course, I want to use the pin because these are heavy speakers, but looking at the size of my speakers now, I think this could be potentially too high. Of course, you want the tweeter, or sort of just a bit below the tweeter, to be perfectly in line with your ears. So let's pop a speaker on and see how we're looking in terms of height. Here we go. My gosh, folks. Oh man, these are massive. Oh my gosh, look at these, folks. This is just unbelievable. One thing I will say is I'm so glad that these have foam on the pads. My old ones didn't, and these speakers aren't sliding around. On my old stands, they were sliding around. As you guys can see, that is absolutely huge. Oh my gosh. In this room, it almost looks like I'm sitting in front of a massive pair of hi-fi speakers or something. Let me get the other one up on the stand, and we'll have a look at it. We'll step back and see what it looks like. But actually thinking about the chair scenario, that could be the perfect height. I know it looks really damn tall, but my God. I thought I'd film the process, why the heck not? This speaker has a scratch on one side, so it's the side facing the wall, but then I discovered that I might want... Damn it, I put the wrong speakers on the wrong stands. Bear with me, 2 seconds. Come on. Oh my gosh. Because of course I don't want to be staring at a scratch when I walk in. It doesn't look good. I'm pretty gutted about the scratch really, guys, because these are such expensive speakers. I wouldn't have mind keeping them mint, but you can't have everything, and it was a working environment for X amount of time, so it's all good, you know. Battle scars are part of the story. It's just odd because battle scars on like old equipment, even if it's old good equipment, I can cope with. But when I was the one to purchase these brand spanking new, and they came to me, you know, obviously new and shiny, it's a little bit disheartening when you see that they're scratched up. But yeah, oh my gosh, I'm gonna get you guys a new angle. One thing's for sure, guys, those speakers are gonna dwarf my 24-inch monitors. They're gonna make my 24-inch monitors look like, I don't know, 15-inch panels. And I'm actually doubting now, standing here, I'm doubting whether I'll get the 3 monitors in between those. If they don't go in between, what I'll have to do is pull the desk out more, turn these speakers so that there's more desk space, and then sit further back. Now you may be wondering, why would I sit further back? Well, it's extremely important with these sorts of speakers that you sit in a perfect triangle so that you get balanced stereo sound from each side, otherwise it makes the whole thing redundant. So if I was to do this, that would then mean that the triangle would have to come out much more. But if I have to do that to fit the monitors in, then I have to do that. We'll see how it goes. But they can't... Actually, I'll tell you one thing, folks. The speakers themselves, the stands will go closer to the wall because at the moment, the point of the triangle on the stand there is hitting the wall. So I can put the flat part of the triangular base against the wall, but then of course, because of the depth of the speaker, it would then hit the wall. But I will say that this looks beyond impressive, guys. This looks beastly in my opinion. And with those 2 lamps at the top as well, it really, really kicks off that end of the room. That's a colossal sound system right there. Right then, let's faff around with some cables. I'll tell you one thing, guys, I think I've just solved the previous potential issue I was talking about. I've turned these back to face where I'll be sitting, and of course, if needs be, the monitors, the screens can be there, because from here, I can see right down the sides of the speakers, so the screens can actually cover the entire width of the desk if needs be. Because obviously, the further you step back, the more the speakers block the edges of the displays, but that doesn't matter whatsoever because when I'll be sitting there, I'll be able to see them. It might look a bit crammed, but at the same time, it might look really good. So yeah, I'm really confident that they will fit. It's really hard for me to visualize it, but this is a seriously wide desk. This is a really wide desk. So, I mean, just for comparisons, obviously this is a rack mount piece of gear, so this is 19-inch. If I stick that there, that'll give you some idea as to the size of the desk. You know, you could get almost 4 of those along there. So yeah, 160 centimeters wide, I believe it is. But don't quote me on that. I have been known to make mistakes when it comes to measurements. Now, of course, when ordering all of these power cables, I was only doing it very roughly because you can't measure for cables all the time. I've bought so many cables in my life that I can pretty much guess what lengths are going to be, but I always overcompensate, especially when it involves things like this, because if you dedicate a day to setting up your main setup, and then you're left without a cable, or your cable is half a meter too short and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it, it can put the whole project on hold, putting everything else on hold because of how crucial the setup is. So I always overcompensate. So for that reason, I bought 2 5-meter power leads for the speakers, as you guys know. Now that would be great if the power conditioner was central to the setup, but as far as I'm aware, it's not going to be. Or it could be, who knows, who the heck knows. But what I've decided to do is use a 5-meter for this side, and I've borrowed one of the 2 meters or whatever this is, 1.5 or whatever, from the monitor 3, because obviously these will be fine for the outer 2 monitors. Then I'll use one of these short ones for the middle, because this splitter is going to be in the middle. So I'm kind of like ending up with the least amount of excess cable as possible, which is always a good thing. Now, one thing that I have done is plugged in the XLRs. So we have the XLR, the red one coming down there, and it's heaped up on the floor, and we also have that one there. Now, what I'm going to try and aim to do, possibly, is aim for the power conditioner to be somewhere in this region. As you guys know, I have no rack solution on the main setup yet. I've got this to go in a rack. I've got my dual compressor that I use for my voiceover microphone and my lav mic, and also my floating mic, the pencil condenser that I use for videos. And also I have a wireless microphone receiver, that's rack mount, so a 3U rack really. So yeah, where the heck am I going to put a 3U rack? I have no idea. But we'll see. I could just stack them under the monitor for now, under the left-hand monitor. We'll see how it goes. Again, I've almost changed my mind instantaneously. I am using the 5 meter for that speaker and that speaker. Reason being, I unwrapped this one and I realised it isn't long enough to do what I want to do in terms of cable management. Now, in my opinion, one of the ugliest things is when you have a stand and, well, actually, basically what it's doing now is kind of coming away from the stand before it's reached the bottom. So what I want to do is tie up the cables to the top of the pole, tie them all the way down, right down to the bottom, so that the trailing cables come out right at the bottom here. That way it's as tidy as possible. Then of course I'll take them back up the leg of the desk or whatever into the cable management and then distribute them wherever I want them to go. And that way, using the 5 meters for the speakers gives me that length. That's exactly what I was planning on doing. Now I remember why I ordered them so long. So yeah, happy that I remembered that right at the end there. So this is the sort of thing we're going for here, folks. Totally clean, cable managed all the way down. So you can see the power and signal cables. Nice bit of slack, enough slack at the back of the monitor to be able to turn it to the desired position. Then it's going down the back. There's another tie there going down to the bottom and another tie there. Now you can see a bit of a bulge at the edge. And then this is the sort of thing we're going for, tying all the way along until they need to break off at the ends, which is a lot further down the cable run because my mixer is going to be on the desk here. So that's where the XLRs will eventually terminate. But this is just a little note on these Velcro ties that I've got. Now, a lot of people have started using these, or I say started. I mean, often when you do a project like this on YouTube, especially networking stuff and whatnot, if people use zip ties, you always get people commenting saying, use the Velcro ties, use the Velcro ties. Now, I'm in a bit of a mixed situation about them. I used them, as you guys know, to do my entire home entertainment setup, and for the most part, they're great. However, you cannot get as tight of a tight of a grip with the Velcro ones as you can with proper cable ties, because this looseness can't be avoided, because no matter what you do, the Velcro is never going to be as tight. You just can't physically do it. With a cable tie, you can pull it with all of your strength, so that your entire strength is behind the squeezing of that cable to whatever it's attaching itself to, which is obviously not good if you've got a low quality cable or a thin cable or something, but you know, you use cable ties sensibly. I can see why Velcro is fantastic for quick release, but for a project this permanent where you know all the cables work, I've got to admit I'm going to be changing to proper cable ties for this one, folks, just because it allows me to do it really cleanly. Now, network, where you've got 48 Ethernet cables coming through your house or whatever, Velcro all the way, because if one of those cables gets damaged, it'll be a nightmare chopping all of those cable ties without cutting your Ethernet cables accidentally. But for this, if a cable was ever to die for whatever reason, I would seriously not mind chopping my cable ties. You know, it's one of the things I find fun. I've always used cable ties, you know, chop them off when I need them, blah, blah, blah. And Velcro ties are great, and I'll be using them definitely where they're needed. But for this one, it's going to be cable ties. So I'm not going to waste my time doing the other side and continuing on this side, because number one, it's dinner time and I'm starving, and number two, I want proper cable ties to do it. And of course, annoyingly, the diameter of this pole is so thick that you need to attach two of these together to get around it, which is really janky and awkward anyway. So yeah, this is the update for now. These speakers look amazing, but I'll be seeing you guys in the next couple of days. It'll obviously be instant for you guys, thanks to the old magic of video creation. But yeah, next step, get cable ties do this properly, and heck, we might even be moving all the stuff, who knows. So it is the next day, and I wasn't meant to be filming anything or working on this setup today, but I'm just going to talk to you guys for 5 minutes to close this part 2. Now, I'm really sorry if I promised that I was going to move my setup down in this video and you're going to see a lot more, but what basically happened was I started catching up in my editing and realised that I've already got way over half an hour, so I'm going to be splitting these up into smaller chunks. So I'm really sorry guys, this is going to be a bit of a cliffhanger end to this part 2, and I know we haven't done much, but this means that I can get this video up a lot quicker to you guys, because I can start uploading it tomorrow while I'm filming part 3 and while I'm filming the dismantling of IMNC HQ Mark 1. It'll also make the timelines line up a little better as well, so we're not having too many confusing jumps all over time and space. But anyway, before I close, I'm just going to give you guys a little update as to some of my thought processes. Now, I've been really struggling. Basically, last night after dinner, I came up here for about 10 minutes and I sat on the floor and I stared at the setup and I thought to myself, where is this rack gonna go? Now, for those of you who don't know what the heck I'm on about, if you're watching this and you're not familiar with what I mean in terms of a rack, this is a rack. This is a 19-inch professional equipment rack. This is for network equipment, such as this switch and this UPS. This is all rack mount stuff, but I want a little rack on my main setup as well for the 3 rack mount items: this power supply, the compressor, and the microphone receiver. Because when you don't rack up this sort of equipment with the ears hanging over the edge and they're just, they're just all over the place and it's messy. When you can get it in a rack, you can hide all the cables, you can tie them back, and separate pieces of equipment almost become one piece of equipment. That's the best part about it. The best part about it. You know, when all the server gear is in here and I close the door, it'll almost be like, yeah, that is my network. I close the door, and even though there are multiple pieces of equipment in there, they're all working in harmony. That's the beauty of a rack. Now, I need the equipment that I'm going to be putting into this rack on the main setup. The power conditioner is crucial. I don't see the point in giving such nice equipment dirty, noisy power. I don't see the point. And also, it acts as a fantastic distribution for all of the connections that this stuff uses. It all uses IEC, that outputs IEC, and it makes everything neat and tidy on one plug socket, as you guys know, something that I'm striving for on this setup to eliminate the amount of extension leads that I need to use for multiple 13 amp sockets. However, I'm struggling to find a place for the rack itself. Now, this is going to be a bit of a cliffhanger, and I suppose quite a lot of you are going to give me some advice, and I will be interested to hear what some of you guys say about it. Now, I've been imagining maybe putting a rack on this side, because the mixer is going here. As you guys know, my little MkII X820 is going to go there. And I was thinking, if I get the 3U rack and put it here, then have this left-hand monitor with the stand at its lowest setting. I can then have these stands at their highest setting, and they'll look even, but there'll be a rack underneath that one. Unfortunately, I don't think that's going to work, because I currently have my compressor and my wireless mic receiver under my monitor, and I believe that those 2U, that 2U total stack is the same height as one of my monitor stands. I'm not sure, but I believe it's pretty much fully collapsed, so I don't think I would get a 3U rack, including, it's probably going to be a wooden one I go for, a white wooden one to match the desk. So I think it would be way too thick to do that. Now, as you guys can see, I brought this shelf over, this 3rd tier, to that shelving unit, but I just can't have it there. For one, the rack would be facing like sideways. I think that would look really weird, really odd. With a desk leg in front of it, it would also be awkward to come down and change settings and alter things and see what's going on. And of course, I don't really like the look of this one having 2 shelves and then this one not having a bottom shelf. It kind of looks really rubbish. And of course, there's no space to mount any kind of rack here. Okay, there's no space at all. So what I'm thinking is I'll have to come up with some kind of hybrid solution to get I don't know whether it's going to be the rack kind of half on the desk here with the mixer up on top of it. I have no idea what it's going to be. This is the only thing that I didn't plan for because I couldn't visualize it without the stuff here. Everything else is planned. My computer is going there, the 3 monitors are going there, keyboard, mouse, some, you know, external things on top of the computer, and I know how all the cabling is going to work with the even distribution of cabling back there in that rack, you know, with this thing and all sorts. I know how all of that is working, but I don't know how the audio rack is working. So that's the cliffhanger I'm going to leave you guys on. So you should be seeing part 3 as not the next video on the channel, because the next video you'll probably see is the dismantling IMNC HQ Mark I video, but you will see this very, very soon because my internet is due to arrive very soon. Whether it does or not this time, I'm not holding my breath, but I really hope it does. So a huge thank you for watching, everyone. A huge thank you also for your patience and coming along with me for the ride. I know this has been quite a lot in depth on the audio side of things, but I know a lot of you guys love this stuff. Oh, and by the way, today I received delivery of 2 nice long USB 2.0 extensions. This will be to basically take the only 2 USB 2.0 ports on my computer, guide them around, use one for the monitor hub, and use one as a dedicated keyboard and mouse USB connection. So yeah, that's the USB 2 taken care of, and as you guys know, USB 3 is taken care of by my lovely powered USB 3 card and hub, which is very handy. But anyway, that's all to come. Just a little sneaky peek as to a few things that are coming when I get my computer down here. But yeah, as I say, huge thank you for watching, everyone, and as always, I will see you in the next video, which should be, on the main channel at least, dismantling IMNC HQ Mark I.